Previously on, whatever the fuck this channel's name is now.
It is more than long-standing as it is, and I would recommend it to everyone who wants to see a good Disney film. Start with the one that started it all. That being said, I think that the remake will be the one to end remakes, which would be quite poetic, no? Like a Harry Potter title. The one who started it all. The one who ended it all. I can't wait.
Now.
Snow White is pretty bad. The original was super simple and didn't leave a lot up to chance, mostly because there wasn't a lot to worry about. The remake, however, added so many moving parts and failed spectacularly at juggling them. Generally, I would have let the meme video I made speak for itself and not make this video.
If we can give up our meager scraps, we will inherit what was meant for all of us.
But the more I thought about this film, the more issues I found with it, after only one watch. It's funny, the issues are so surface level and generic, I don't need to think too much to find them. There are so many issues in fact that I decided, fuck it, I'll make a whole video on why this movie fails so spectacularly. This isn't going to encompass the discord outside of the film. There are a lot of reasons to hate Rachel Zegler, and rightfully so, but honestly, there really isn't a need to bring her up at all when discussing how bad this film is. I will say this, she plays a horrible Snow White. Not because she's brown,
I don't believe you.
She's just not a very good actress at all. Really, her failures in this film have nothing to do with the Snow White role itself. Rather, it has everything to do with her base level competence when it comes to acting. I have no idea why they hired her for that role. I mean, I get it, Disney, you want your brown folks, but please, someone else? Anyone else? Her acting is so distracting that I can't even believe for a second that she is the character she's portraying. Now that's going to be it when it comes to Rachel though, mostly. I don't want to bring her up outside of the character she's portraying again. She's been dragged through the mud so much for all the dumb things she's said. I'd say a person in her position would have been manipulated to believe all kinds of nonsense. All these poor Hollywood idiots are part of an echo chamber that is on the brink of imploding for all the failure they've experienced so far. And they are leaving behind a lot of young, untalented actors that will not be able to keep a normal job afterwards. But trust me, the writing and world building is so borked that focusing on just that is more than enough to make a feature-length movie. So let's get into it, shall we?
Shall we?
We open up on a king and queen described as virtuous who rule over a peaceful kingdom. We're going to get back on that. The movie starts out where for some reason one of the tires on their cart breaks while driving through half an inch of snow. The servants, I'm assuming, are running around trying to look busy, while the queen is holding a perfectly clean baby which supposedly was just born. Because they are so creative, they named their brown child they gave birth to Snow White. Because of the snow. Huh? You see, the king and queen saw snow, and so they called their brown child Snow White, obviously. I wonder, if it was just raining, would they have named her Rain Transparent? If it was foggy, would they have called her Air Gray? If it was sunny, would they have called her Photons Yellow? This is, without a doubt, the most pathetic attempt to justify hiring a brown actress for a character called Snow White I have ever seen. The circumstances of her birth don't come up again for the rest of the film, other than in dumb songs, as if they were written before the story. The writing in this scene achieves only one thing, and one thing only, and it's to answer a meta question. Actually sad. The film would have been better off just ignoring this issue. Everyone already complained about her skin color not fitting her name. We've moved on a long time ago. Rachel Zegler gave us a lot more to make fun of than her skin tone when it comes to the role that she's playing. Either way, we move on to see the kingdom, where the king and queen are involved in the picking up of apples with the commoners. Okay. After that, we see that the kingdom also mines for gems? That's confusing. What do the gems help them with? and at the end, we're shown that the apples are repurposed into apple pies. The kingdom seems to wholly agree that sharing with each other is the way to go. Money or no, everyone shares everything. And somehow that doesn't lead to nationwide famine. Hollywood, please, just read this book. You don't have to read the whole thing, just read up to chapter 2. You know what? Fuck it, I don't trust you. I'll read the important part for you. Prices play a crucial role in determining how much of each resource gets used where, yet this role is seldom understood by the public and it is often disregarded entirely by politicians. Many people see prices as simply obstacles to their getting the things they want. Those who would like to live in a beachfront home, for example, may abandon such plans when they discover how expensive beachfront property is. But high prices are not the reason we cannot all live on the beachfront. On the contrary, the inherent reality is that there are not enough beachfront homes to go around, and prices simply convey that underlying reality. When many people bid for a relatively few homes, those homes become very expensive because of supply and demand. But it is not the prices that causes the scarcity, which would exist under whatever other economic or social arrangements might be used instead of prices. If the government were to come up with a plan for universal access to beachfront homes and put caps on the prices that could be charged for such property, that would not change the underlying reality of the high ratio of people to beachfront land. With a given population and a given amount of beachfront property, rationing without prices would now have to take place by bureaucratic fiat, political favoritism, or random chance. But the rationing would still have to take place. Even if the government were to decree that beachfront properties were a basic right for all citizens, that would still not change the underlying reality in the slightest.
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow?
You might be thinking that gems will cover this, right? You know, the Wakandan vibranium shit. Having so much in abundance of a resource everyone wants will only serve to enrich your kingdom and never come back to bite you in the ass. I'm afraid not. Having that abundance on its own will inevitably lead to the downfall of that civilization. The second there is another source of that same resource, the prices will fall, and if the Snow White economy heavily relied upon gems, then if the dwarves started selling their own share, or if any other kingdom did so, then the prices of gems will fall so low that the kingdom's economy will crash. What else does the kingdom produce? Apples? Do they produce enough to sell? And either way, that is heavily ignoring the basic fact that the kingdom is peaceful.
There was a peaceful kingdom.
In other words, they are a completely isolationist kingdom. They do not sell or buy anything from anyone else. So why are they even mining precious stones? What for? They can't eat rocks, and no one externally is buying them if you are peaceful. Seriously guys, just read this book. I'm sick of fiction writers trying to write economies for babies.
How embarrassing.
As with all these stories, Mama dies, or maybe just leaves because she read basic economics and didn't want to suffer the Maduro diet. Afterwards, Gal Gadot comes in and impresses the people with magic tricks and gets the king's sweet D. The movie doesn't waste time in letting us know that she is evil. Why is she evil? According to the film, she was evil because she only cared about her own beauty. Riddle me this. Who cares about anybody else's beauty? Think about it. If someone cared about anyone else's beauty, you would call them shallow. And when you care about your beauty, that is called being healthy and taking care of yourself. I mean, when Japan enforces a fat tax, isn't that seen as overstepping and tyranny? But by definition, they are doing the opposite of what the queen is doing in this film. Are they not? I still need more reason to see why she's evil. She then warns the king of southern attackers.
You've been charged with sex crimes with children?
Not really.
Not really?
Wrong answer.
Hell no!
Is more accurate.
They're in the country illegally, and Tom Homan's intention is if you're in the country illegally, you need to self-deport.
And so the king leaves to deport, defeat southern invaders.
Damn, I love my job.
Hold it close.
Dad, can you not sing right now? I'm kinda taking this scene seriously. No, seriously, why does this scene need him to be singing? It's an emotional scene where Snow White is saying goodbye to her dad as he's going off to fight. Tone, guys, remember Tone? No! the king doesn't return because he probably found another model to fall in love with, and the queen decided to rule the country correctly. She wisely realized that a kingdom with borders will need to protect its land from any threats. She created a military, used taxes to fund her endeavors and empower the kingdom's defenses. Now, although taxes suck, if there is no money in the kingdom anyways, and she's taking the useless gems to sell them to buy weapons, then that is a useful way of using the kingdom's resources before they become valueless down the line. Remind me, how is she evil? She quite literally made the kingdom stronger through policy. The people will now have defenses against foreign invaders. I mean, if the king didn't return, that means that the threat is credible, and he'd been slain. How is she evil again?
She made Snow White a servant.
Oh, that is your reasoning why she's evil? Did you forget this? Do I need to remind you that Snow White was tasked with single-handedly making pies before the evil queen ever set foot into the kingdom? That was supposedly the golden age of the kingdom. The child is making food. She's using sharp utensils and ovens. She also picked apples with her parents. They are all doing servant work. If the kingdom was about splitting up the labor amongst everyone, it stands to reason that she has been doing servant work long before the queen made it official. So at best, you can say that the queen is as evil as her parents, except she also built the military and created a system that is capable of protecting itself. Later, it is revealed that she did kill the king, and don't get me started on how dumb that reveal was. So I guess, sure, she is evil for taking over a kingdom, but here's the issue. It's quite clear that the queen is not worried about appearances when it comes to her kingdom's people's opinions. She runs the kingdom with an iron fist and has caused so much change in the kingdom so far without a care about how it's perceived. If the people lived without having to pay a dime to anyone for anything before the queen took over, really the majority of the people, the consumers, would be the ones who would complain. The people who wouldn't complain would be the people who produced the food, who are now the new soldiers. The people who support the queen were the ones who did any work around the place. They are the new guards.
Paul, you were a farmer in the Western Vale. You had a grove of cherry trees, and when they would blossom, you would invite the village to come and pick them, to share them. Matthew, you were a baker, just like your father. You never turned anyone away if they were hungry, even if they didn't have a coin left in their pocket.
The rest of the people, the freeloading shitbags, are the ones truly affected here. They lost their endless food supply on the backs of the farmers, who were probably strong-armed into working at the king's commands, with no pay or ownership of the fruit of their labor.
Is a man not entitled?
The freeloaders wanted it to be that way. They are the ones who would be anti-queen because they can't freeload anymore. They need to work to ensure their survival now. So with that in mind, why would the queen keep Snow White alive? Let me be clear. A. The queen is evil, the movie says so. B. The populace are now tasked with working to survive, and logically, they are the majority of the population. So with that in mind, why is Snow White still alive? There has been no retaliation as to the queen's actions. Snow White is the only credible threat to her throne. Why keep her around at all? In the original, the kingdom is not defined much at all. That is the way it should be, since you can logically infer that the people of the kingdom still knew of Snow White and don't rebel against the queen's tyranny by having her show up for certain events dressed as a princess, but because she doesn't like her, she kept her as a maid. Basically, Snow White being alive aided the queen in appearing less tyrannical. But when we are shown that the kingdom already doesn't really like the queen, and none of the population even remembers Snow White,
As the years passed, the people nearly forgot there ever was a princess named Snow White.
then why is she kept alive at all? You might be wondering then, if the original had the queen keep Snow White in order to hide how tyrannical she really was, by potentially having the princess be visible in certain events or gatherings where the populace can see her, then why would the queen one day just decide to kill her? Well, the original has the queen's entire motivation be her beauty. Now that Snow White is recognized as more beautiful, then and only then does the queen decide to discard of her secretly. It's not a smart decision, but remember that the queen wants to be the most beautiful. Anyone who gets in the way of that goal, inadvertently or not, is going to suffer her wrath. In the remake, she can just as easily get rid of Snow White for the basic reason of being the next in line to the throne. The queen has more motivation than just being beautiful. She took over a kingdom and discarded of the king in order to get ultimate power.
The new queen wasted no time seizing power.
Why then does she not secure her position sooner? Especially since the kingdom understood that the king is most likely gone. The queen is dead and the princess is forgotten. you can't make her motivation be her beauty alone, especially when you have her singing about how beauty is also about belongings. Oh yes, we are going to talk about that musical number soon enough, don't you worry.
Don't you worry.
Writers, don't add extra moving parts to stories you are remaking. Trust me, you can't handle it. You guys are dumb. Afterwards, we are introduced to this movie's version of the Prince. Flynn Rider. Sorry, I mean Aladdin. Sorry, I mean Robin Hood. Sorry, oh my god. Sorry, I mean Jonathan. How creative a character he is. We meet him robbing the palace of potatoes because he's hungry. See, that doesn't make any sense to me. The food and crops that the kingdom grows are grown by the farmers. The good farmers have mostly become Queen's guards, since the original King's guards left with the king and were probably murdered by the Queen. So, with that in mind, the rest of the populace is now growing food for the citizens and probably selling it for goods and services. Therefore, the only way you can be hungry is if you don't work for your shit. And considering these fucks are bandits that steal in the name of the king, whatever that implies, it could only mean that they are hungry because they are not contributing to the economy at all, other than stealing from it. Really, you are not stealing from the queen at that point. You are stealing from the people who are growing these crops. Think about it. Who are they stealing from? Really, who are they stealing the food and goods from? This dude is introduced stealing from the castle. And don't even get me started as to how retarded this is, considering that the queen is militaristically stronger than the king. So him getting in would be an impossibility. But when he and his gang of hoodlums are famous for being thieves in the forest,
Are you one of the bandits that gather in the forest stealing in the name of the king?
No, Your Majesty, not one of the bandits. I'm the boss.
Nigga, shut the hell up.
that means that they have a reputation for that kind of thing. Most of what they are stealing is from individuals who would sell it to the kingdom for pay, where they then use that money for their own personal needs and the needs of their families. Like, you just grew a whole bushel of apples and on your way to sell them to the queen, you get jumped by this asshole and his retard avengers and get your shit kicked in while they rob you. That is going to be most of their income. So don't expect me to feel bad for a thief who happily steals to feed himself and his dumbass buddies who are all fully capable of an honest day's work for an honest day's coin, yet choose to steal from people who are working hard for their families and claim it to be in the name of some greater good. Fuck off with that bullshit. He is then caught and the queen decides to burn his house down for punishment. Now he doesn't really have a house, so she then moves on to putting him in the dungeons, and Snow White interjects, saying that the punishment should fit the crime.
Punishment must not exceed the crime.
Hey, idiot. The crime isn't the potatoes anymore. He is, by his own admission, the leader of a group of bandits who steal from civilians in the name of the king. You are punishing him for a lifetime of crimes, not for this one, retard. The queen then punishes him by having his clothes taken off and strapped to the gate in order to freeze to death. Snow White doesn't like that and decides to sing about how sad she is. I have to say, as unattractive as Rachel Zegler is compared to Gal Gadot, and to be honest, it's not a fair comparison at all. I mean, it's not even close. I have to say, Rachel has some mannerisms that make her look less attractive by design. The amount of underbite she keeps doing is so distracting. Lady, stop trying to bite your nose. It looks ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, she's not ugly, she's a solid 5, but fuck me, Gal is an easy 7 on a bad day. Either way, we move on to Snow White noticing Jonathan getting chained for his crimes. Oddly enough, he has way more clothes on than expected. I thought he was going to be stripped. Why is he wearing anything at all if the sentencing was death by the elements? Either way, Snow White undoes the extremely loose knot that was supposedly keeping him in place, and should be keeping him in place for days on end until he dies from freezing, in front of civilians whom none would try to free a completely unguarded prisoner. She then gives him some bread she's had stashed away in one of her holes, and he takes it. You heard me right. The princess that is living it up in the castle hears that someone and his group of friends are starving, even though they are thieves and deserve it, and she feels sympathetic enough to give him 2 bites worth of bread, instead of, oh I don't know, smuggling away a bag of food for them. Who is going to question her? She's the princess. Even if the guards would tell the queen, she was able to free the fucker without any resistance, since the guards are nowhere to be seen. Why doesn't she do an actual gesture? That is equivalent to a billionaire donating $10 and expecting us to assume that he cares so much about the cause.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Whoa, how did that get there?
It's highly doubtful she gets limited food. She's allowed on the queen's table. She can order any old cook to make her food. She's the princess, for fuck's sake. Well, either way, the queen notices this personally because the guy who was just sentenced to death by freezing isn't being watched right after getting attached to the castle door, and she decides to ask the mirror for who is the fairest, and the mirror now notices Snow White after all this time, even though she's existed for a while now as an adult, or whatever age range where Rachel portrays her. What is he using as his metrics? It seems to be the people's perception, and this dude, having been given the smallest iota of attention from the princess, now likes her more than the queen? Well, of course he likes her more. She wasn't the one who sentenced him to death. She was against that. Why would the queen care about the people's perception of her beauty when it comes to the people she punishes? Also, what does the mirror use as a metric really? It's not beauty, otherwise the mirror would have been able to let the queen know that Snow White was more beautiful beforehand. If we skip a bit further, we get to the musical number that the queen sings, and boy is it cringe. But there is a part that matters here. She says that inner beauty is bullshit, and I agree, inner beauty doesn't exist. It's bullshit we came up with to make ugly girls feel better about themselves. Really, it's a manipulation tactic to make ugly people not act out. If you are nicer than anyone, you are more beautiful than a beautiful person. That is, of course, the mentally deficient modern people's thoughts on the issues, while in reality, pretty people will by definition be nicer because they get more socialization, while ugly weirdos are ignored and ostracized because they are assumed to be worse. Don't blame me, blame psychology. So what are we really talking about here? Why is the queen doing anything at all? She knows she is better looking than Snow White, yet she still tries to live up to some biased mirror's logic? Why? To what end? If you strip it down to its most basic building blocks, the queen is really fighting a semantics battle. That's really all it is. The mirror says it plainly at the end. As a being, it values inner beauty. I don't know why a mirror could even judge inner beauty. You need to remember why it's a mirror in the first place. It sees reality. It sees what is only skin deep. That's the point. A mirror symbolically can't see what's behind a person's outer facade we show the world. Only a person can do that. That is the symbolism of the mirror from the original movie. A mirror is a reflection of the world. You see in it only what you show the world. The mirror then judging inner beauty is retarded. And either way, the queen isn't using the mirror's definitions. So even if we accept the newer version of the mirror, I cannot for a second accept that the queen will keep using the same question of fairest of them all when she and the mirror are using different definitions of the word fair. If she ever wanted to win over the mirror, she would change her approach completely, but she doesn't. She understands that inner beauty is what the mirror looks for, and even if she doesn't agree with that definition, she still wouldn't proceed with the very thing that the mirror disapproves of when it comes to its measurement of fairness. Why didn't the queen just say, well, I know, retard mirror, you use a different definition of fair, so instead let's change the question to ignoring inner beauty, only focusing on looks, who is the fairest of them all? What the fuck is the mirror gonna do? Not engage in a hypothetical? That is against the rules. I cannot answer this question. Oh shit, I need to rhyme. Erectile dysfunction. The queen then sends Swiss Army black man, who so far has doubled as a guard and now as a hunter, to kill Snow White while she picks apples. Her offering him an apple that he so easily could have picked for himself moves him so much that he is unable to finish the job. Either that or her stone expression of unrelenting stoicism while a large black man holds a knife pointed at her throat. What is the idea here, movie? What am I supposed to gather from this? That she is so suicidally reckless she doesn't even have the basic human instinct of screaming to inform anyone who might be around of her situation. Why does she not try to run away immediately if she's so strong and courageous, capable of remaining completely aware of her situation and stern? She also asks him why. The fuck you mean why? Your dad is gone, your stepmom queen is tyrannical and seemingly kills anyone who defies her, and has a loyal guard who follows her every command. She made you a maid and treats you like shit. Of course killing you was on the docket. If she is so strong and courageous that she wouldn't even scream when face to face with a fucking knife, she would also be able to understand what is happening. She isn't so innocent and clueless that she couldn't understand the reality of her situation. She would know exactly what is going on. There are no other options here. Also, for the two morons who came up with the reason that she might be thinking that he might want to kill her in rebellion against the queen, that is retarded, because he knows that she doesn't like her. Snow White is seen as a servant by him every fucking day, and what would killing her achieve other than ensuring that the queen rules forever? Either way, we move on to the forest running scene. This scene has been terribly adapted. The original was so much better because in the original, nothing was truly attacking Snow White. She perceived things as attacking her because of her panic. Meanwhile, in 3D, the forest is actually they animate it to attack her directly. The forest moves to attack her. Trees fucking uproot themselves to attack her. While in the original, everything was normal, but it was clear that Snow White's perception is what made them scary. Honestly, it was just confusing. The whole time I was wondering if the forest was actually evil and she went down some sort of cursed part of the woods. Moving on, the CGI monstrosities of the forest aid her in finding her way to the dwarves' house. She goes in like she owns the place, walks up the stairs, and sleeps in their beds. That's cause she's the princess and you gotta deal with it. Apparently, it was getting late when she was picking apples instead of daytime like it was in the original where she picked wildflowers. So when we move from her sleeping to the dwarves going to work, I guess we were supposed to assume that the dwarves were on their way back from work when she made it into their house, and that the following scene was actually earlier in the day. That's not confusing at all. Now brace yourselves. I'm about to say something positive about Snow White. The Dwarves song is pretty good. I like it, okay? Now, don't worry, everything around it is fucking terrible, and even the song has issues, but to be completely fair to the film, I have no idea how they would make the dwarves look good in live action unless you go the logical route and piss off Peter Dinklage. And honestly, Peter Dinklage can go fuck himself with his assumedly comically large penis. If there is a role that a dwarf could ever get every time, it's a fucking dwarf role. Why take away a job that a certain group of people with a certain type of disability would get every time? Are people with Marfan syndrome not allowed to take monster roles now? Oh, well, fuck you too. Either way, the song is pretty fucking sweet. It's like the songwriters sat down and thought, if we were to extend the song, what would we add to make it work? And they pretty much nailed it, except for one gripe I have with it, but it's pretty esoteric, so brace yourselves for some baby level music theory. In the original, the dwarves sang the hi-ho part of the song by extending the ho to the end of the measure. While in the remake, they had the dwarves shorten and accent the note. Is it wrong? Not theoretically, it's fine really, doesn't break the rules of music, but what it does do is give off a different vibe. The original approach of extending the notes gives the feeling of jauntiness and happiness at the prospect of what they are doing. As a worker's song, we get the feeling that they are happy to work their jobs. That being said, when you shorten it the way they did in the remake, the effect stops being about happiness and excitement, and it starts feeling more like strength and duty. It goes from being a song about happiness to a song about responsibility and posture. Basically, it feels more like a military song rather than a happy laborer song. I know, very minute reason to criticize, but I do like the song. I just was giving my honest thoughts here. Keep the ho long. Beyond the notation though, the issues get a lot more general. For example, the voices of the dwarves. Why the fuck do they sound so young? The original had them all sound like older, distinguished gentlemen.
It ain't no trick to get rich quick if you dig with a shovel or a pick. In a mine.
Meanwhile, in the remake, they all sound like they are in their 30s. Why? And these two, Grumpy and Doc, sound like voice actors straining themselves to make their voices sound like that.
Once upon a time.
Their singing voices are also terrible. Grumpy sounds like an angry chain-smoking pixie. And Doc in the song sounds like a guy who's trying to insult someone else's voice. Truly terrible. Why not get impressionists for every single voice? We know what they sound like. Their voices fit better in the original. Here, they sound like shit. Additionally, here's another issue that is pretty annoying. The dwarves are now shown to be magical. Using their hands, they can find diamonds and other precious stones hidden in rocks by touching them. Instead of, you know, their experience being what makes them great at mining, they have a fucking mod installed to find their nearest diamonds. That is so embarrassing. I personally liked the original because even though other people would probably struggle to mine diamonds, the dwarves were so experienced and determined that to them mining is an extremely easy way to get rich. The remake trivializes what experience and hard work would have achieved for the dwarves, and instead they are magically blessed with the ability to track diamonds using, well, magic. So lame. I like the idea that a dwarf could be tossed anywhere in any mine with basic tools.
Don't tell the elf.
And then, with very little time, would be able to make perfect reinforcements and find some precious stones thanks to their experience and expertise. A dwarf is a strong symbol of defiance against the earth, where no cave is too deep or too perilous. Using science and determination, I will find what lies beneath. Now they are another magical creature that is just given great powers by the ether. Clearly, I'm Team Dwarf over Team Elf. Dwarves fucking work for their greatness. They punch above their weight. Elves just kind of exist and are great. Actually sad. After reenacting the trailer for the next Uncharted, the dwarves make it home, and after finding Snow White in their beds, who snores like a fucking bear, she comes out and then introduces herself.
My name is Snow White.
Yeah, Grumpy's on the fucking ball with this one. Some brown chick saying that she's Snow White? No way. Instead of the princess guessing their names, which would show that she even bothered to learn who lives there before polluting their beds with fucking swamp water, she is told who they are. The writers really tried to make kids like these characters by having them spout utter nonsense, like Happy having long toes. What the fuck does that even mean? Anyway, they choose to let her stay even though they know for a fact that there are bandits out there.
Things that come into the forest anymore are bandits.
And that the dwarves are canonically creatures that were blessed with mining magic. Of course, no bandit would, try to kidnap one of them and kill the rest, only to make them reveal their stash of diamonds and then have them find more and more in the mines. Of course not. Instead, they all simp for Snow White and let her stay. Where do they fit her? What bed does she sleep on? And where do they sleep after that? I don't know, man. Unlike the original, they completely avoided this question.